Yo halo gamers, balik lagi bersama gue di Firdaus, Great Games di GG Talks. Seperti biasa, di GG Talks itu gue bakal ngomongin seputar game-game yang lagi hangat ya kan, berita-berita game lagi hangat, atau kita sekedar membahas-bahas ya seputar dunia pergamingan ya kan, asik. Tapi sebelum gue ngebahas tentang berita game ini, jangan lupa subscribe supaya lo gak ketinggalan berita-berita game terhangat, oke? Jadi kita langsung masuk aja ke videonya.
Hello everyone.
Hi, this is Paul from Adamant. We have our colleague Shaman, and from Storm's side we have Shin and David, and from Niji Games we have Nico.
Yes.
Great to meet you, Leo.
Okay, nice to meet you, Mr. Paul. It's an
Yes.
honor for me.
Oh, likewise. It's a pleasure to finally put a face to your name. Yeah, I've only met Hazron and Taufik from before.
So the point of this interview, I just want to know each other's between Storms and Niji Game itself. And I know Niji Game is an indie game developers.
Yes.
Makes me curious is Storms. I don't know what Storms is it. What kind of publisher are you actually?
To share on that. So we are a gaming company based in Singapore, invested in by Intel, AIS in Thailand, and SK Telecom in Korea.
Okay.
And, Storms focuses on 4 business lines. Yeah, our first business line is a mobile game publishing business that is very focused on hyper casual games and casual games. Okay. The second business line that we focus on is game advisory business, where large studios approach us to then connect with the Singtel group, Singtel associates in Southeast Asia, India, and Australia. Okay. The third business line focus that we have is that we are developing a HTML5 gaming platform. In Southeast Asia and India. Yeah. And the final business that we're focusing on is we're building a mobile app that is a very focused gaming news, community, and rewards app that should be launched sometime next year. So game publishing is one out of the 4 business areas that we're focusing on at Storms. Yeah.
Wow, I never thought that Storms it will be greater than just a publisher. I think it's just a publisher that knew coming, but it's actually a big company.
I wouldn't say that we are like really super big like a unicorn. We're not a unicorn yet. But we do. Obviously, game publishing is something that is a key focus for us, and that's why I've known Nico now for a few years now. When I used to be at Google Play in the Google Play team. But game publishing is something that we are really passionate about and really focused on, and helping small indie studios in Southeast Asia as well as India to really help them grow their business regionally as well as globally. Yeah.
Okay, I heard that you mentioned hyper casual game. I would like to know what is hyper casual game and what makes it different from the casual game itself. Maybe from Mr. David or Mr. Nico as a developer, I would like to know.
Sure. Nico, why don't you go first, Nico?
Hypercasual is a game that is very simple to pick up and play. It has very simple mechanic, and people can just play it with simple console, usually just one finger tap, and you can play it directly, and you can stop anytime. Hypercasual is mostly something like that.
Okay, so if you said so, I've played Umbra for a couple of times lately. And is Umbra part of the hyper casual game?
Umbra is more towards casual games. It's not a hyper casual games. It's easy to play, but the mechanic and the theme it's geared towards casual games more.
So it's casual game more than hyper casual game. And talking about Umbra, I want to know how long did it take to make this simple casual 3D? What is that? Perspection shadow kind of game?
Yeah.
How long did it take?
So Okay, so it's a shadow puzzle game where you need to match the block shadow to a projection on the wall. It's our first 3D game, so it took us around 6 months of development to finish the game, and we changed the art directions a lot of time to finally find the final look.
Okay, so let's say it's done by 8 to 1 year. Can we say that?
Around 6 to 8 months.
Stop. Oh my god. And from 1 to 10, can you describe how hard to make this Umbra compared to your other games like Jonas? I played Jonas before. It's very interesting.
Okay. Thank you. Our previous game usually a 2D casual puzzle games. Because this is our first ever 3D game, it's very difficult technically to get everything right. So maybe around 7 of 10 the difficulty compared to other 2D games.
Oh my god, it's just 7 out of 10. Okay, so I just talked with Nico. I think it's pretty enough. And now I would talk to Mr. David again. To know, Mr. David, what makes Stones wants to be a part of Umbra itself and make Umbra your first mobile game to publish?
So it's a good question. I've known Nico now for a few years, and when I was at the Google Play BD team, I was a mentor of the Google Play Indie Games Acceleration Program. Yeah, and so I've known Nico now for a few years. And this year, whilst working at Storms, myself and my colleague Ben was invited back to be mentors at the Google Indie Games Acceleration Program. Yeah, and Niji Studio was one of our studios that I was mentoring together with my colleague Ben. And so, when we started talking and discussing with Nico about his games, we really loved the Umbra game. A lot of great things about it around, the beautiful art style, the fact that it was a 3D puzzle game and it wasn't a 2D puzzle game, and it had a beautiful UI, and it was quite simple to play the game. Yeah, and also more importantly as well, I've always been a very strong and passionate supporter of the Indonesia games community. Yeah,
Wow.
I've been supporting the Indonesia games community now for over nearly 12 years, since my Nokia days. Yeah. So Nico also know, I've known studios like Agate Studios and Own Games and all these studios for at least 10 to 12 years. And it was important, I felt, for a game publisher, besides the fact that Umbra is a beautiful game. Yeah, it's a beautifully designed game. Art style is great. It's got a very global focus as well. Yeah, but also for me passionately, I want to help Indonesian game studios, indie game studios in Indonesia grow. Yeah, because now in Indonesia the market is getting very crowded.
Yeah.
A lot of the big game studios are really dominating in Indonesia and growing the game industry. But the issue there is a lot of the local Indonesia game studios are being moved out, are being crowded out. Yeah. So this particular game, and the fact that I have a lot of trust, Nico and I trust each other a lot because we've known each other now for a few years. So I think all those factors together made it an easy decision for us to publish Umbra.
Wow, that's pretty good reason, Mr. David over there. I would like to support Indonesian indie developers over here. I just wanted to know, for this collaboration, everyone has their own goals. What are the collaboration goals from you as Storms, as the publisher?
Nico, why don't you go first? I always like to give the limelight to the game studio. It's more important to the publisher. So Nico.
Okay, thank you.
It's yours.
I'll go first. As a indie game developer studio, we mainly focus on developing games, right? Sometimes we are too focused on just developing the games and not thinking about the business side, marketing, localization, publishing too much. Partnering with Storms and having mentorship with David and Ben, they can help us in taking care of the business side. They are doing the marketing, localization, and publishing, and Niji Game can just focus to build the next best game.
Okay, and from Mr. David,
Yeah.
what is the goals from Storm as a publisher?
Yeah. So as a game publisher, there are certain goals that we have, right? When we work with a studio like Niji, right? So number one, obviously, we want to help the studio grow, and we want to grow together with the studio. So whether that is growing the user base, growing the revenues, that's a very key goal for both the publisher and the studio. We want to help each other grow together. Yeah. The second goal is to mentor and help the studios like Niji advising, game advisory. Yeah. So I work very closely with Nico and talk to him about pricing strategies, about going global strategies, about advertising strategies, about paid user acquisition marketing strategies, yeah, about data analysis within the game itself, right? So that one there is an education piece as well, and both Nico and I learn from each other a lot, right? Because there are things that Nico is very, very good at that I am not that good at, and vice versa. The publisher that we're really strong at is more around the game advising, as I mentioned. So there's a very good fit there. And I say to Nico, you focus on building a great game, and I'll help you market the game and bring the game to market globally as well as Indonesia. Yeah. And then the third goal, obviously, is to work very closely with Telkomsel and Google to help support Indonesia game studios. Indonesia game studios, would be a lot stronger if they had the support of some of the biggest companies in the world like Telkomsel and Google, right? And then Storms coming in there and providing the game expertise is another goal for us. Yeah, and I think the fourth goal is also tied into our passion that there are not that many game publishers in Southeast Asia. Yeah, there's not that many, right? So we want to also, besides user growth and revenue growth and profit growth, we want to be seen as helping the local developer community, because the future of gaming is not about the big studios, it is about the small studios that can potentially be bigger studios in the future. Those are the key goals from a Storm's perspective as a game publisher.
Okay, so you're saying that Storms is not just a bridge to Niji, from Niji to the market, but you also the mentor from F4Hub, from Niji itself. Yeah.
Yes, exactly right. Because it's kind of like to my around 12 years experience with the Indonesia gaming community. The Indonesia gaming community is a very special one. It's a very unique one. Okay, although the studios are competitors with each other, good friends. They are also very good friends, and together they learn a lot from each other. Yeah. If I talk to Agate Studios and Own Games, and I talk to Touchden, and I talk to Lito, everyone has very high respect for each other, and everyone learns from each other. This is what Indonesia gaming community is all about. Yeah. Although there's competition, you compete with each other, no doubt, right? But people are very, very friendly to each other, and they help each other grow together in Indonesia. Yeah.
Well, I never knew that. I lived in Indonesia for like years, but I don't know that our developers are so friendly to each other. How about
Absolutely.
Nico as a Niji Games? I want to know, is it right what Mr. David says? Is that our developers is very friendly to each other? Have you been in contact with other developers to learn something or sharing?
Yes, actually we have a Discord community exclusive for Indonesian game developers.
Okay.
Where we usually talk about our games, on getting feedbacks, or just maybe announcing some news like a new game release, something like that. Before COVID, we usually have like a monthly meeting where game developer can meet together and share some or show their new games and get feedback. But during COVID, it's all now stopped for now. But hopefully it can continue later. Okay,
so I want to know about this Discord. This Discord been so interesting to me. Is it for developers, or if can you just imagine if I make a game? Can you say if I make a game that Discord? If I make a game today, can I join the Discord?
Yes, sure. It's for all people who have passionate about making games. So new developer, professional or veteran developer, everybody is welcome to join.
Everybody is welcome to join. So where are we exactly at Discord? Is it by invitation or we need to follow the event?
Okay, if you on Facebook, you can search Indonesian game developer, and then you'll find the Discord link on one of the posts there.
Okay, so it's basically a community on Facebook, and then you move to Discord.
Yes.
Very interesting. I never knew that. I will spread this to our new developers out there who very scared. They're actually not alone. You can be part of the community. That's very good. And now I would like to speak about strategies. Mr. David, I will talk about this, right?
Sure, no problem.
You mentioned that Indonesian mobile market has been crowded by games today. And what is some strategy, or do you have a secret weapon to compete with all those mobile games out there in Indonesia?
Yeah, so I think that there are a couple of key strengths that we have from a Storm's perspective in terms of game publishing. Yeah, the first strength that we have is that we leverage heavily on the Singtel group of telcos all around Southeast Asia and India and Australia. And when we leverage these Singtel associates, it means that we have the ability to have discounted cost of acquisition on the Singtel group countries all around Southeast Asia, India, and Australia. And also, we work very closely with the Singtel group on any sort of support on a marketing side in those countries that Singtel is really strong at. That's the first advantage that we have. The second advantage that we have is that 90% of employees at Storms are all ex-gaming companies employees. Yeah, so we used to work at Ubisoft, EA. We used to work at Google, Facebook, Riot Games, Tencent, and so on. So we have a deep industry expertise in gaming. That's the second advantage that we have. And I think the third advantage that we have is we are based in Southeast Asia. Yeah, so because of that, our network of studios already know us because we used to work with them before, right? Whether it's with our old gaming companies as publishers, or for me, I worked with Nico and a lot of the Indonesian studios before because I used to work at Google Play. So I think this sort of deep level relationships that we have with the studios where trust is a big factor. Yeah, especially in Indonesia, trust is a very, very big thing. Yeah, so I think that those three factors are our advantages and our strengths. Okay, now as to your question on the number of games, there are a lot of games out there in Indonesia. How do we choose and pick those games? We have the ability to assess games very quickly to see whether the games are high potential or not. Okay, and if we feel that the games are high potential, we start testing the games in process that we test. And if the game passed a lot of our internal tests, we will work with the studio to publish their game. Yeah, so that's how we approach the so-called crowded market, and based on our strengths that we have, that's how we hope that we can make the studio successful as well as us being successful. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your expectation in Indonesia market with Umbra, with all those advantage of yours?
Yeah. So the expectations of Umbra is that number one, we will promote heavily and push the local flavor. That is a local Indonesian studio. Yeah. We will then work with Telkomsel and hopefully work with them on some marketing campaigns where they can promote the game to the Telkomsel user base. Okay. And then the third one as well is to show Indonesia that we care about Indonesian game studios. Yeah, because nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of the smaller indie studios are forgotten. Yeah, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, that's very good, Mr. David. And now, same question but different perspective from Nico itself. I want to know how Niji Games feels as a developer about this tight competition in mobile platform. Are you feel a little bit scared, or you just feel confident with everything you have?
As indie developer, of course, it's tough if you want to compete with the big developer, international game publisher that push their game in Indonesia. But we believe as indie, we have our own unique strength that we put into our games. That's why in our games you will find it have a unique art style or unique gameplay element in it that you cannot find in those other big games. So I think if we can use our uniqueness to our games to make a difference experience, player will find it that it's refreshing to try local game like Indonesian made games as well. And yeah, and hopefully a lot of more players aware of Indonesian developers, so they play more Indonesian made games, and the player and the developer can grow together.
Okay, I only can say amen, bro. I need more Indonesian games to be played here, right now. And now you're talking that you seem pretty confident. Is that confidence come from the experience you got in Indie Games Accelerator back in 2018?
Oh yeah, of course. The program is very helpful. We are very humbled and exciting when we were chosen as one of the Indonesian studio to become the first batch of IGA. We learned a lot from the Googlers about various subjects, and we also have like one-on-one mentorship sessions with mentors like David, so we can get more detailed feedback. We can share like detailed problem about our games or our studio, and get very like clear feedback about what can we do to improve it.
Okay, so you're saying that IGA is very impactful to Niji Games.
Yes.
And I heard, speaking of IGA, I heard that Mr. David, you're supporting this program, right?
Yes, I've been. So when I was at Google in the Google Play BD Business Development team, I was supporting the Indie Games Acceleration Program for 3 years, from 2017 to 2020. And then when I left Google and now currently at Storms, I continue to support the Indie Games Acceleration Program because I strongly believe in the program. Yeah, I believe that that there is a lot of focus now on the very large game studios in the world that are dominating. But the key to a sustainable gaming future is that the large companies need to support the smaller indie game studio as well, because the indie game studio are the future of gaming. Yeah. So the Indie Games Acceleration Program from Google is exactly the program that I'm passionate about, because it helps studios like Niji Games succeed, and through advice and mentoring and guidance that otherwise would not be available to a lot of indie studios in the world and in Indonesia. Yeah.
Okay, so can we say every big developers out there, every big game developer out there is come from an indie game. Can you say that? From small indie game turn into a big giant.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's kind of mixed, right? So if you look at companies like Supercell, they started off as a very small game studio and they grew to a very large studio. But then you have the mega publishers like Tencent and Garena, used to be Garena, and a lot of these large companies are very large already, and they were just being publishers, so they acquire game studios or they publish game studios. So it's kind of a mix there. But I think that unfortunately, what happens is that the very big, large studios, like the top 50 studios in the world, the top 50 gaming studios in the world, really dominate the gaming industry in terms of revenues, in terms of downloads, and so on. But what's happening is that the smaller studios, and there are millions of them, are really struggling, right? So I think that the Google Indie Games Acceleration Program tries to address that imbalance. I feel there's an imbalance in the game industry.
Okay, so as a mentor in IGA, I want to know what is the key success in the developer to be a bigger one, to be a like now.
So I think that there are a couple of key success factors here. Number one, the game itself, right? The game itself has to be something that is unique, something that has an element of a viral attraction to it, where you can share it with your friends, or it could be potentially something very easy to play, like a puzzle game. It's constructed beautifully, and more importantly, it's got a very important roadmap over the next kind of 12 to 18 months for major updates to the game to increase the longevity of the game itself. I think that the second factor is the genre of the game, in terms of is the game in a very crowded genre, for example, like match 3, for example. So match 3 is very, very crowded. But having said that, it doesn't mean that if it's crowded, it cannot succeed, right? Because match 3 is a very popular kind of gameplay, but now we're seeing match 3 being blended with strategy and being blended with other genres as well, right? So the game itself, number one, is really important. What's so special about it? What makes it unique? Number two, what sort of genre is the game focusing on? Yeah. Number three is also, who are the developers developing the game? Do they have a good track record like Nico does, right? Do they have a track record of great quality games in the past, right? And that is it gives me more comfort that they will succeed in the future, because they have a very strong experience in the past there. Yeah. The fourth success factor is for both the publisher and the studio to be constantly learning from each other. I think that's really important. With a publisher agreement, it's never about one-sided. It's not, I tell you what to do. No. It's never like that. It's us learning very, very closely to each other. For example, I might say to Nico, hey, Nico, your pricing strategy for a particular in-app item is quite expensive. Yeah. Have you thought about potentially dropping the prices in some of the low-income countries like Africa, like Kenya, but maintaining the price in the US? So that sort of strategic advice, I think, is really important. And also, Nico would tell me, hey, technically the game, it'll take a bit more time to fix particular things in the game, or you want to do the ad placement strategies, this requires a bit more tech work. So we're constantly learning from each other. So I think those are the critical success factors that I as a mentor will look at, and translating to I as a publisher. Yeah.
Okay, so you guys are communication in both ways. So you as a mentor and Nico as just like a student. I don't know, is publisher ever like talking about the core of the game? Like, Nico, this game is quite boring. We won't do this again. Or just, Nico, you should make it better. You should make it online, or you should make it just straight like this offline games.
Yeah. So this is a very, very good question. And Nico can also share his answers with you. So when I started mentoring Nico, I never tell him what to do.
Okay.
What I tell him is advice around the game, experience with gaming in the last 12 years. Yeah. So I will say, hey, Nico, if you look at Umbra itself, the current version right now, you have about 50 levels and it's a fantastic game. But if you want to maybe improve the longevity of the game, maybe you can introduce leaderboards. Yeah. So we compete with each other. I get a score of, I only can go to level 20, and another one gets level 30, and so on. So I try to suggest. It's always suggestion, but I'm very clear. I always say to Nico, you own the game. You let me know what you think of my suggestions and my ideas. But when I suggest ideas, it's always backed with evidence on other games that we are familiar with, right? So we will say, hey, can you maybe introduce multiplayer PvP elements in the game? Yeah, because that improves the virality of the game, so that now you can play with your friend, right? So it's more. That's why I said it's more of a two-way thing. Because then Nico will say, oh, David, maybe this idea doesn't, I don't really agree with this idea, but this idea makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I think that's the relationship I have with Nico, and that's the relationship I want to have with studios that we publish their games. Yeah, I'm sure Nico can also share from his side.
Okay, you're talking about multiplayer back there. Is online one of the key to make a game has a bigger player base? Is it has to be online game, or we can just play offline game but it's very good game?
Yeah.
How is it?
Yeah, good question. And the answer is you can do both. You can do both. Yeah.
We can do both.
You can do both because single player games like Umbra, for example, or for example another game that is single player is Happy Glass from an Indonesian studio as well. These two games are very, very successful. Okay, but the key there is the segment of the users and the segment of the gamers you're going after. Yeah, so single player games are very relevant for example, time poor people that only have 20 minutes to play a game. They'll pick up the game and they'll play it, and they'll pick up the game and play it because it's very simple to play, and that works really well.
Okay.
Yeah, multiplayer PvP is more for strategy, RPG, MOBA, battle games, and it's a very, very different segment, right? That one is more if you have few hours to battle with your friends and you want to go through a strategy and you want to get clans and get teams and all that, then PvP multiplayer can work, right? And they're very successful as well. So that's why my answer is both single player and multiplayer can work depending on the segment of gamers and users that you're targeting.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask to Nico. Nico, is it any chance, is it even it's a little any chance that Umbra or one of your games will be online, will have multiplayer feature in it?
For Umbra, I don't think so. The gameplay it doesn't suit to be converted into a multiplayer game. But in the future, we would love to do a game with an online or multiplayer component. Maybe our new game.
Okay, can you just tease us a little bit what kind of game you're trying to build right now with your team? Is it Battle Royale? Right now?
No. Right now we are working on several mobile games actually.
Okay.
To tease a little bit, currently we are working on what we call slots RPG. We combine a casino slots machine with RPG battle. And
okay, that's interesting.
And the second one is a visual novel mobile game.
Visual novel mobile game, so it's more like a story-driven game.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So I want to know what is the difficult to make an online game, a multiplayer game? What's the difficult of it?
I think for indie developer is the main thing is the technical side, the programming side, and managing the back end of it, and getting enough user to test so you can scale the game. As an indie developer, especially small indie developer, I think it's very challenging to do. That's why we if we want to do a multiplayer partner, we will need partnership with big publisher like Storms.
Okay, so Mr. David, I'm going back to over here. Nico is very confident with his future games, online games slot. What do you think about it, Mr. David? I want to know. I just want to know.
No, I think that Nico has a very strong history of producing good games. Yeah, and Nico is also very good at understanding what are the key trends of the gaming industry right now. Yeah, whether it's multiplayer PvP kind of story game, whether it's a puzzle game. I do feel that Nico has a pretty good chance of success in the future because not only has he had a good history and good track record in building games, right? He also understands where the key trends in the game industry is, right? So, and I've said this to Nico as well, we can always potentially look at other games in the future if they make sense, and it's something that we would definitely support. So I do think that Nico is on the right track to succeed, and I'm hoping, I'm cheering him on the sidelines to hope that he does succeed, and I'm trying to help him succeed as well.
So you're down for it? You're down for Nico making a multiplayer slot RPG game? Can we say that? You're down for it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely supportive of it. I mean, once again, multiplayer slot strategy game is something that depends on the segment of the gamers that you're going after. Yeah, with a multiplayer slot strategy game, you would expect a lot of very high retention rates, right? That's the reason why it's multiplayer. And I think that I've had a look at the game. Initially, look at it. It looks pretty promising. It looks pretty good. Nico is still working on the game, so I think that I think it has some legs. When Nico is comfortable enough from his side to share it, maybe when he's published it on open beta or when he's published it on closed beta, then he can probably share that with you. But yeah, I mean, I don't see why Nico can't succeed in this game as well.
Okay, that's very good. I understand. Nico, you get the green light, man. Now go get that game. Go get the game done. Okay, Mr. David and Nico, I would like to know that IGA is postponed, right?
So that one, that question, you would probably, if you can reach out to our friends at Google, and Paul and Shin can share the contact details. I'm not sure of the strategy for indie games, except the IGA, the Indie Games Acceleration Program, but it's something that Paul and Shin can reach out to my Google friends over there, Marcus, who can share more on the details around IGA.
Okay, now I just want to know, like, if IGA postponed this year to next year, so there is a chance for developer to join. I want to know, how important is this program for indie gamers? I want to know the answer from the mentor himself and from the veteran of the program, Nico.
Yeah, sure. So let me start first. I think that the program is absolutely critical for indie game studios in the world. Yeah. When I was taking part in the Indie Games Acceleration Program in the first year, in 2017, they had thousands of applications to the program, and around, I think, 40 or 50 were selected. Yeah. So I think that, as I mentioned earlier, I think that the program, given the mentoring from industry experts, given the Google experts talking about different products that Google can share with studios, I think that guidance and the mentoring and the advice is absolutely critical for small studios or indie studios. I think that's really, really key, having that structured framework to support the growth of indie studios globally. So I think it's really critical. It's a really critical program from my side, and I'm sure Nico can share more as well.
Okay, from Nico, how critical or how big is the impact from this program to you?
I mean, it's very major impact. It's like maybe one of the biggest impact that Niji Game has since we started. I mean, in during IGA we are we get connected with a lot of other indie game developers. So we are in the community of people who like and passionate about making games. And again, during the program, as David said, we get to learn a lot from each other and from the mentors. And even after the IGA is finished, we are still connected with each other. We can still ask for feedback, get insight. So it's been really helpful program for us.
Okay, so I want to know how hard is to get to that program from your experience. Is it that hard?
I cannot answer the Google criteria, but we are very lucky to be chosen as one of the first participants.
Okay, so you're saying it's actually hard, right? It's actually hard. So this developers who wants to join this program has to be good, has to be passionate to this. Okay, so Mr. David and Nico, for the conclusion of this interview, I want you guys to send the message to our newborn developer in Indonesia. Just what is the message? What need to do?
Okay, so I think there's a few things that they would need to focus on. Number one is really have a lot of passion and belief in the games that they produce. Yeah, that's really, really key, because making money will give you a short-term happiness, but building games that you really truly love will sustain you for the longer term. So I think loving the game that you're building and having passion for game development is number one, very, very key. Yeah, I think the second advice I would give, up and coming game studios, is to try to do a bit of research on the Google Play Store as well as the Apple App Store, and to see what sort of games are trending really well and what sort of games are downloaded a lot. Yeah, because by doing that, the game studio or the small up and coming game studio will understand what are the popular genres and the popular type of games out there. Is it puzzle? Is it match 3? Is it MMORPG? Is it RPG? Is it MOBA? Is it the different types? And you can see that easily on the Play Stores, Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. So I think second is doing a lot of research on the popular games out there, but more importantly, downloading the games and understanding why they are popular. Right? Is there an element in the game that makes it really popular? Yeah, I think that's the second thing. I think the third thing is to always have a never give up attitude. You should never give up, right? You have to, because giving up is easy. Succeeding is very, very difficult, right? But what's really important is, once again, focusing on the passion and building the game and believing in yourself. Yeah, believing in yourself that you can succeed in a very crowded space. But if you follow your dream and your passion and your love for game building, as well as doing your own research on what are the popular games and titles out there, I think that you can really do well. The fourth advice I would give is try to, where possible, to family and friends as much as possible, so that family and friends can test the game and give you honest feedback on the game that you're trying to build. And it doesn't even have to be building the game already. You can just, at the concept stage, just share some artwork on what the gameplay and the game design is all about. Yeah, I think Nico has done that with Umbra, because Umbra puzzle, there are thousands of puzzle games out there, but if you play Umbra and you download Umbra, it's something different. It stands out in the puzzle category. Yeah, So I think the uniqueness there is also important. And I think the final advice I'll give is, reach out to the industry experts where possible. It's, when I was at Google Play, I attend a lot of gaming events, yeah, and people would just come up to me at these events. I don't even know them, and at most I would spend maybe 3 minutes with them or 5 minutes with them. I would say, okay, show me your game. Let me see your game, and then straight away, I would just advise them a few things to think about, like maybe 5 things to think about. And that's all they need, some sort of guidance, right? And that's only 5 minutes of my time, but it means a lot to the studios, yeah? So I think that it's important to find these industry experts who are willing to give their time to help these small indie studios, yeah? And that's what I used to do at Google Play, and I love doing that. I love helping studios because it doesn't cost me anything. And I just spend 3 to 5 minutes with these studios, and it helps them a lot. Yeah. So that's kind of my answer on my side. Yeah.
Okay, and from Nico, what is your advice to new Indonesian developers?
I'm totally agree with everything David said. So maybe I just add a couple more. The first David said is about passion, about the love of your game. That's totally true. You need to believe in what you are developing. Maybe a small advice is just to start small, and get the prototype up and running as fast as possible. And don't be afraid to share and get honest feedback from friends, family, and communities. So if the game is fun, or you need to improve something, or you need to move on a different game. And the third one is almost same like David again. Don't be afraid to ask for expert feedback. Currently, Niji is helping a few small indie game studio in developing their games. We give game design feedback, art feedback, some or anything else that they need. So if any indie developer, mobile especially, want us for feedback, we also can help them. I think that's all.
Okay, so if tomorrow I make a game, I can ask you, Nico. How is that?
Sure, no problem. Just send me the game.
Okay, gentlemen, I think that is gonna wrap our interview today. I'd like to thank Mr. David. Very big thanks for you, and for Nico too. Do not forget for this humble sharing. I got a lot of information from just this. How many minutes is it? Just 1 hour. 1 hour, I can get a whole new information about gaming, about strategies, about marketing, about publishing, and developing in Indonesia. I'm very thankful, man. Thank you.
Oke, itu dia Grid Games Talk atau GG Talks hari ini. Jangan lupa untuk subscribe kalau kamu nggak mau ketinggalan video GG Talks. Like video ini kalau kamu suka, dislike kalau kamu nggak suka, tapi semoga suka ya. Jangan lupa share ke teman-teman kamu. Sampai jumpa di video berikutnya. Stay gaming.